Hello, this is Crypto CJ. It's a trade of the day, Monday afternoon / evening Zoom edition. And we got a little bump today and a little bit over the weekend. We've got Bitcoin breaking through 37K, Ethereum above 2,000. So coming back from the dips we had towards the end of last week. Let's go to the charts, check it out.
First of all, where's it being found?
Okay, I've got some background noise. Can someone turn that off, please? Okay. I'm gonna have to turn that off myself. All right, let's try that again. Okay, should be seeing my Bitcoin day chart.
Yes.
Okay. So the range I've drawn is down here in the bottom, around 25, 26K. Up on top, 35,000 to 37.5K. And we've been hanging around the top edge of that range. Now, Craig and I were talking earlier. Craig, you had a question for me? Maybe not. Maybe he'll be back. Let's look at the Ethereum chart real quick.
Great,
Oh,
was on
sorry.
mute.
Had my microphone off.
Oh. All right. Go ahead then. What do you want to ask?
So how do you establish those ranges? You know, how far back do you look? What time frame do you establish them on? And then how do you zoom in to the smaller time frames for what you do?
Yeah, since I'm primarily a day trader and one could argue a short-term swing trader, sometimes on accident, I use a little smaller time frame than most. I mean, I use this day chart on these Zoom calls because people who attend these trade all over the place as far as their ranges. Some do day trades on the 5 and 15-minute chart like I do. Some even go to 2 or 3-minute charts. Then some go longer, an hour, 4 hours, things like that on longer swing trades. So I try to take most of that information into effect. One of my favorites is the 4-hour chart. So, and then I'll squish this together and I'll just look for where I see the range starting to form. And it's more of an art than a science. You know, there's going back to October here on the 4-hour chart. You know, we've been hanging around this 34 range. And so I used
So why isn't that bottom line a little bit lower? Because we're pretty much working in that channel at the moment.
Yeah, I probably just didn't go back that far.
Right.
Actually, it's a
So
good
you're
question.
taking it off the peaks rather than the bases.
Yeah, and I already have a pretty large range here. You know, from 35,000 to 37.5, it's $2,500 range. So, I mean, that's less than 10%, I suppose, for Bitcoin. But I think I started this right about here, and I didn't go back all the way here. But that's a pretty good point. One could argue that this should be down here around 34 exactly. That's a pretty easy fix. I can just go here. And then instead of 35,000, put 34,000. And then that's a bigger range. And so if you're looking for a longer term swing trade, you might want to try to set your alert around 34, maybe set a few alerts between 35, 34.5, and then 34 to get into that swing trade. If you want to catch the bottom of the zone, if you're more patient, then you try to catch the lower zone here, down around 26.5. And maybe I should extend this up a little bit to 28,000, but then they start to grow closer and they're less meaningful. So
what's the likelihood it's going to go below 30 again in the near term? Not very.
Not very, but who knows? What if Binance implodes or something like that? Then You know, again, not
Wow.
likely, but some, you know,
Anything's possible.
anything's possible. But something like this is really more
Okay.
for, what's that?
Did you finish what you're saying?
Okay. This kind of approach to trading doesn't really, you know, it's not going to help us on a black swan event like a, you know, like a Luna or an FTX from last year. But for pretty normal trades and influential news items, but not oh my God news items, this works pretty well. And I've been even considering, you know, changing in my approach just to mix things up a little bit, because I think I'm getting a bit repetitive. Maybe going to the 30-minute chart or the you know, 45-minute chart or something like that, and just trading more on support and resistance. It would mean fewer trades, but, you know, overall better
Right.
entry.
Well, that was my next question was,
Mm.
okay, so when you bring it down to your smaller time frames, like I often work 15 minutes for this sort of stuff. You say you've got this information here now, you bring your chart down to a tighter time frame. How do you look at it then?
And I'm going to go to a different layout in that scenario. This is the one you guys have been seeing the last few weeks. And then maybe a 30-minute on this. And then I'm going to incorporate my supply and demand visible range and let it help me determine where those ranges are. And you see how it's creating the green range on the bottom and the red range on top.
Okay, so you're not using those bigger identified ranges when you come into the smaller time frame.
No,
You
I
don't
don't.
take those into account at all.
No.
Okay, so those bigger time frames are just to get a bird's eye view of the market before you move into
Yeah.
what you're
Actually,
doing now.
I was on Bitcoin before. Let's make that Bitcoin again. Right. And I know in the back of my head that this is pushing, you know, the top of the longer range I have here, you know, this 37.5. Let's go back to where it
So you don't have
was.
that range marked on this other chart.
No, but I know where it is.
You bet you know where it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Help, you know, somewhat
Okay.
from doing these, you know, these calls twice a week. So, but it's probably a good idea to look at these every couple days and remember where, you know, where Bitcoin, where Bitcoin's range is, and Ethereum, and then maybe a couple of the major altcoins that you're interested in trading.
Yeah, well, see, when I look at this, I can see it appears to me that Bitcoin's on a fairly strong move up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've got your middle red line there. It's got a strong up. We're on a day chart, so it's
Mm-hmm.
you know it's reasonably long term, and you're hitting the top of your range and trying to break through it.
Yep. And
So, in my mind, when you come to your shorter time frames, you want to be aware that the overall movement is up. So, taking a short carries higher risk.
it does. And as much as I love shorting, you know, it can be a, yeah, it can be a real problem in this type of market, even though we see that these ranges do come back. I mean, it bounced up to 37.5 here last week, and then came all the way down to 34.7.
Yeah.
You know, so there's always those retraces, and that's, you know, as a day trader, I love that. But if you're on the wrong side of one, you know, if you take a short down
Yeah.
here, that's a problem. So
I'm not saying we shouldn't take shorts. It's just there is a higher risk, so we probably need to be a bit more certain before we go into it.
yeah, or you go smaller, or you set a stop loss, you know, things like that on shorts in a market that's trending up, or you just avoid them. So any of those are valid approaches, I think. All right.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you for the question. Any other questions or comments about, you know, the market overall? And, you know, on this Ethereum chart, I think, you know, one could, once this broke above here, I had the range down here around 1600. And then I saw that, you know, when we broke above it, I saw we had history back here. So I thought it was, you know, it was a good idea to move the range up, but one could argue it's, you know, it's down here, or you could draw three ranges. You know, this could be the middle and this could be the lower one. So it's just however you want to trade. I can't really say there's a right and wrong answer to it, but okay, well, let's go to Altcoin Alert, see if we can find some day trades. Okay, I'm going to reload and sort by AA score. Okay, this morning I had Didix up here. It was 80.2 or something like that. So I've had that one. I've had an alert set on that one, but it's drifted down 1 inch is back up. I was looking at this earlier. So let's check it out. It's coincidentally the first one on my list, alphabetically. Let's look at the 5-minute chart to see if we're in a 1, 2, 3 dip. And all right, I'll turn off the range for the moment so it's not cluttering. We had kind of they call it dead cat bounce here. Harsh drop, quick bounce. So there was no dip sequence on the latest dip from 1 inch. Currently sitting on the SMA line, halfway between the Bollinger Bands. Not really where I want to enter. About 2% between them, a little bit of room to move. But let's put the supply and demand back on. I use this, as I mentioned earlier, to determine ranges on smaller time frames. And you can find this indicator on TradingView. Click on your indicators here and type in supply and demand. And you can find it that way. It's a free Lux algo product, so that's kind of cool. All right, we bounced above and then come back to the green zone and then sitting on the SMA line on the, actually, let's set a price alert here. If you don't want to deal with indicators, we're going to talk about those momentarily. Alerts on the indicators, you can set a price alert. Wait for it to come down to the green zone. Add an alert here, 356. And I use the information source as the alert name, AA score, and TradingView will remember that. And notifications, I like to notify in an app on my phone, show a pop-up on the computer screen, and play a sound. You can choose just 8 sounds to choose from. I use this one a lot, but so that's how you set up a price alert on the 5-minute chart or really any time frame chart. So should that alert go off, you might want to reevaluate, see if you want to get in, see if we're in a dip sequence, something like that for a good entry. But as you guys know, who've been with me before, I prefer indicator alerts on the 15-minute chart. And I've been using the RTI to set most of my alerts the last couple months. And the RTI is a relative trend index. It's supposed to be a new and improved version of the RSI, the relative strength index. Then I use this cumulative delta as confirmation to show me what's happening on the candles. So there's a few ways to approach this. I'm going to look at this from a trend approach and from a dip and retrace approach. So on dips and pumps, since I'm fairly experienced and I'm going to trade the market in both directions, both longs and shorts, like Craig and I were talking earlier. If you are fairly new to this kind of trading more frequently, you should stick with spot trading. So you're just going to be looking for long approaches on a spot market like Coinbase or KuCoin, and get those entries after the coin dips and starts to come back. Here's a pretty good example on the RTI. It breaks below the 20 and comes back and crosses back up. So that's a dip and a recovery. Those are the kind of trades I'm often looking for. This one crosses the 20 right about here. And we've got a few green candles trending up on the cumulative delta. That tells me that that's a good entry. And so I probably would have gotten in here had I been paying attention. And I wouldn't be out of that trade yet because it just happened. That alert just triggered an hour ago. But I probably would have gotten in right about here. And for me, I'm looking for a 1% move on 10x leverage. If you're a spot trader, you might take this trade and try to get up to the red zone, which is considered resistance, where the coins had a hard time breaking through. You can see 3 times it's gone up to this 37 cent level, 36.5 cents, give or take. It hit this on Sunday late afternoon, hit it again in the wee hours of the morning, and hit it again later in the morning. So I think this is a potentially good exit. So in this scenario, on a spot trade, I'd get in here and look for about a 2% move. And that's a good day trade, even on a spot trade. If you can pile up 2 and 3% profits on your balance, you can do very well. Okay, so how do we find these entries? Well, that was the dip and retrace approach. There's also a trend approach, especially with the market trending up the way it has the last couple of weeks. I've found that when the RTI breaks above 80, that's usually a strong move on that coin and a good entry to get that 1% for me, and maybe even more if you stay in longer. Here's a good example of that from Saturday night. It broke above the 80 right here. I've got pretty good confirmation from the cumulative delta showing me mostly green candles trending up. So enter right about here. And I get my 1% in about 2.5 hours. Loving that. But you can stay in longer. See the green. I was actually pointing on my screen. That's not useful. But this green is still pretty strong here in the RTI. You might want to stay in longer as long as that's green and showing that value. But it does dip. It goes in negative. I probably wouldn't have tolerated that. I probably would have gotten out right around here if I was trading it manually. But people of a stronger resilience than me might have hung in there longer and pick up this 4% all the way to the red zone. So that takes most of the day, 20 hours. But again, a 4% trade, a day trade is really good, even on a spot trade. And 5 or 10x leverage, that's a 20 or 40% addition to your balance. Good stuff. So, but we don't want to sit here and stare at charts all day. So that's where we like to use alerts on the RTI. For the scenario I just described, we'll go both directions. We're going to right click on the RTI like I just did. And we're going to choose exiting a channel. And I usually go with the 80 on the top and 20 on the bottom. Once per bar close keeps it on as long or until you turn it off. And again, this was an AA score, so I'll use that. And notify an app, pop up, turn that off, play a sound, and go with chirpy, click that on. And this will tell me if it breaks above the 80 on the RTI, if it breaks below the 20. Those are trend trades I want to investigate. Now, we're going a little out of order here, but for the situation that dips below the 20 and comes back, or for the situation that goes above the 80 and comes back, we're going to do a different alert. We're going to enter a channel. Entering channel, 80, 20, and I call that a 1, 2, 3 dip or pump. And I think I switched my usual, but so I've got both those alerts going here on 1 inch. So I'll be ready for a trend trade. I'll be ready for a dip and retrace trade as well. I don't just jump into them once the RTI goes off. I'm going to be cautious about shorting anything Because you see there's many times where it dipped below the 80 and then didn't keep going. So eventually it did come down here towards later in the day. And I got a chat question. Marshall's asking, are these the alerts that will show up in Trade Finder? No. Trade Finder is a iCoinPro function. We'll talk about that when we get over to iCoinPro. And another chat question. Okay. Any other questions on the 1-inch scenario we just went through? Okay. So that was an AA score. Let's another sort I like to do is the elder, the long-term sentiment, and then match it up with the elder impulse. So long-term sentiment is what people are talking about online on Twitter. And then we're going to match that up with the elder impulse, which is a technical indicator. When I have agreement on those two, it's usually worthy of further investigation. Big moves on these two, scale and coin, sound vaguely familiar, but not really familiar with them in my own trading. Chromia's had a nice move up today. SNX, I trade this one frequently. Raven occasionally. Algo, these are older projects. Ocean was on my list today. Let's look at SNX. Okay, synthetics. Take a quick look at the 5-minute. Sitting on top of the Bollinger Band. I prefer to get in these 5-minute trades down here on the bottom of the Bollinger Band or in a dip sequence, something like this. But we don't have that at the moment. You could set a price alert down here around 338, the green zone. So might want to consider that. 15-minute chart with my indicators. Let's see. We've had a range. It's broken up above the 80 a couple times with good results. A little bit. This would have been kind of a fake out down here. This break below the 20. If we were looking this for a trend, yeah, that's might have been okay for me at 1%, but does have a nice recovery. Breaks above, the 20 here on a retrace and starting to trend back up. So I do think that we could set alerts on these and they would do pretty well. Take a quick look at my trading over here, my other screen. Yeah, I think I traded SNX right before this started on a long, and I'm sure that's resolved by now. So come on, load. It's being slow. All right. Yeah, I did 11% on that one. Cool. So let's look at the alert options for the trend trades going above 80. These are doing really well. In the dip below 20, not so much. So again, on the RTI, for the trend, we're gonna exit the channel. That's break. The channel is between 80 and 20, so it breaks above the 80 and crashes below the 20. Hence the term exiting the channel. 80 and 20, once per bar close, and you guys know the rest. Then on the trend trade, or the, now I'm getting mixed up. On the dips and pumps, we're gonna enter the channel, 80 and 20. Yeah, that's when something has broken above and then it comes back down. That's where you want to get in, or when it's broken below and then it comes back up. That's where you want to get in. That's 80 and 20 on once per bar close. I'm speeding up a little bit here because we're running a little late. Any questions on SNX? Okay. Let's go over to iCoinPro. Okay, so Marshall asked about the trade finder. To be candid, I'm not a fan of this product. And the reason is it'll tell me if it's a dip, but it won't tell me which one it is. It also gets cluttered up by Bitcoin pairs, which I don't trade. So I almost never use this, but I really like the RSI SPY. So that's what I'm going to talk about because that's what I feel I have some knowledge about. Okay. So the blue spiral line is the normal mode. Marshall's asking me. Spiral line. I'm not sure what that means. Maybe that's what he means. I'm not sure what you're asking there, buddy. If you could unmute and ask or clarify your question, that would be helpful. Yeah. It doesn't quite work like that yet. Marshall's asking about something that will be happening in iCoinPro in the near future, and that's going to happen in this portion, this trading portal. And yeah, this is going to start setting off alerts through different sorts and things like that. I think it could be really useful, but the audible alert portion isn't ready yet as far as I know. So with that in mind, I'm still sticking to what I know. That's the RSI SPY and some of those things. So I just had an alert go off. Let's check it out. 1 inch. Okay, so this just dipped below the 20. So that could be a short, but this is mostly just putzing along sideways, a cumulative delta, so I'm not going to take that one. I'll see if I get another one sometime in the future. All right. Okay. Let's go back to iCoinPro and the RSI SPY. And we had some dips earlier today, so a lot of these are listed. So these are, this means it's dipped below the 30 on the RSI 1 hour chart. And that's different than the RTI I've been showing you in a different time frame, but this is still valuable information. If something's dipped below, it's usually due for a comeback. So these are almost all Bitcoin pairs though. YFI is something I trade sometimes. TIA I have up here. Let's look at this as a spot trade. This one's been, Celestia has been, you know, a crypto darling the last most of the month of November since it was released on or listed on Coinbase. We'll take I was looking at this on the 2 hour just to see what the history of this is. It starts over here. Now, most of the time they pump up like this and then drop like a crater, but this one's kind of interesting. It had a little, you know, kind of a mini pump here, then went sideways and then really shot up. The guys at Crypt Nation like this. They like its tech. So I don't know if this is going to run the course of many other coins to be listed on a big exchange. So it's intriguing, but it has been dipping today, last few hours. So if I look at this like my usual, on the 15-minute, it's in the green zone now. On the 5-minute, it plummeted, bounced, and then it's tapping this lower area again. On the RTI, it hasn't broken above the 20 yet. It's obviously dipped below it, but it hasn't broken above it. So, you know, if you're on Coinbase, you want to do a spot trade, you might want to do an alert here on the RTI. And for a spot trade, it's going to look like this. We're going to be crossing up on the 20. Once per bar close, that'll leave it on until you turn it off, or you can do it just once. And then this is RSI SPY. And, you know, whatever alert you want to use, click create, and you're good to go. I think that's how I would handle that one on Celestia. Another approach on this would be to look for breaks above the 80. We haven't had that since Saturday morning. It's a break up here, assuming the red zone is as it is, you know, 4% moves really good. That would have been a good entry. We have another break down here, and then it comes back up right about here. You know, 5%. So on a trend trade, add an alert on the RTI, crossing up on the 80. And once per bar close, we'll keep it on until you turn it off. You can also go crossing up on 50. That's the mid area, the dotted line you see there, and try to catch some of those moves. I've had less success with that one than with the 80, but it does get you an earlier entry. Just I've noticed there's more fake outs at this 50 area than there are in the 80 area. Okay, any questions on Celestia? Okay, let's look at, that was the RSI SPY. The other one I like is the Buddy Coin Crawler. And I'm sorting this on the average low to SMA. The low is the 24-hour low. The SMA is that red line you see between the Bollinger Bands. So when I see, say, 4% or higher, I think that that coin's been moving in the past and could still be moving. Synthetics was on this list this morning, so I've been trading it today. That's really the only one. Celestia we just looked at. Arweave, huh? I haven't looked at this one in a while. Yeah, let's check that one out. And this can be traded on a leveraged exchange, so we can look at this as a long and a short. Quick look at the 5 and 1, 2. I'd like to see it dip down here and catch it, you know, because this would be a really good looking 1, 2, 3 dip. But we've only got the single dip and mostly sideways movement. But we have the squeeze in the bubble, looks really good. It's currently in the green zone on the 5-minute chart, so let's go to the 15, see if we're crossing up on the RTI. Not yet, hasn't crossed up yet. But if you're feeling confident, this might be a decent entry for Arweave. It looks like it's been mostly pumping. So all these breaks above the 80 on the RTI have been good entries. Yeah, all these are good. We haven't used my vertical line today. So we have a break above the 80 right about here. Makes a nice move up. Dips back down, comes back up here. Another move up. Not great confirmation though on the cumulative. And then another example is here. And good confirmation on the cumulative. But no, that's kind of a fake out. Played that one maybe one time too many. Now we're down 10%. So RTI taketh and the RTI giveth and taketh away. Okay, and you guys know the alerts at this point. You want to be exiting a channel for the trend trade at 80.20. Then we'd be entering the channel at 80.20 to get the dips and the pumps and those and the corresponding retraces. Okay. That's about all I have for Arweave. Any other questions on what you've seen here and the iCoinPro indicators that I like to use? Look at the fear and greed index while we're here. Evidently we're greedy at 66. So, okay, are there any coins you guys want to look at, either on these tools or just on the charts? Okay, I will wrap it up here then. If you're watching on the recording, thanks for doing that. Hope to see you live next time. Please check out the pinned comments. It helps support the channel. And I will not be doing a Zoom call on Friday. That's Thanksgiving Friday for those of us in the US. So I'll be taking a day off that day, but I will be back a week from today. You guys have a good rest of your week and the Thanksgiving holiday. Enjoy that. Even if you're outside the US, eat a lot of food on Thanksgiving and on Thanksgiving Thursday and be thankful. See you guys next time.